call for action. I want to be clear as well. A lot of the things that we are talking about go way back. This is not simply about addressing broken system in this crisis. We had a broken system before we got to the pandemic and the economic collapse, the economic crisis associated with it. I want to give a shout out to a lot of my colleagues. Again, Leader Gibson on the Connect system, and many of us, including one of our colleagues, Kevin Rader, way back as far as 10 years ago, was trying to fix a lot of the terrible rules that are causing people to get denied. We here in Florida, again, have the stingiest system in the entire country. It's not simply we have a system that doesn't work for applications. It's not simply that there's only 12 weeks of benefits currently and 275 cap. It's the fact that there's a lot of arbitrary rules and outdated rules that mean a lot of people are getting denied. Things like the base period, the fact that it's a very complicated system that disadvantages low-wage workers, seasonal workers, and so many other people who just aren't able to run the gauntlet with the rules we have that, again, are the worst in the country. If Governor DeSantis won't act, he does have the power. If he won't act, we're going to call for a special session. We've been very clear about that to get these things fixed. That, to be also very clear, we as Democrats have been advocating for a very long time. It's my honor now to hand it off to Leader Brannon, who is on site in his district, helping to make sure that his constituents' food needs are met during this time.
Thank you, Senator Rodriguez. Right now, I'm at Scout Lake Park. We just finished one of our lunch giveaways that we do at 5 different parks. There's a real life results of what happens with all these terrible things that my colleagues have been talking about. And one of the real life effects of what's happened is people don't have the money, therefore they don't have the money to buy food for themselves. So what we've been doing is we're not just talking about the problem, we're trying to help our constituents, because I've been having these giveaways each and every day. We've had these in the city of Miami Gardens, and you find them all across the state and all of my colleagues' districts, because the real life cost of this is people not having food. And that's just one of the things that's a result of the terrible decisions that were made when the Republicans that we currently serve with voted to make sure that our constituents, when they hit this type of crisis, don't have the money, that our constituents can't get through the system. So I'm out here every day feeding the people in my district. I'm out here once a week giving them fresh fruit and vegetables. And we're having to do this because they don't get their unemployment assistance that they're supposed to get in this situation. You know, it's a terrible thing. And I really join in my colleagues in saying that something has to be done. The line today was down the street. The line every day is down the street. The line at every one of the parks that we do this at is down the street every day. So I encourage and really implore the governor to do his duty and make sure that this works. And now I want to pass it to my colleague here in Dade County, Senator Annette Taddeo.
Thank you. Thank you so much for what you're doing, Leader Brannon. And to everyone, I'm going to concentrate my comments on the gig workers because obviously we've had a lot of issues with that as well. There's really no excuse for how many times the story has changed on how we are handling the CARES Act benefits for gig workers and the self-employed. The CARES Act was passed by Congress a month ago. Other states have been able to not only implement the CARES Act funds, but gig workers have already been receiving their 600 federal weekly benefit payments. For weeks, we were being promised that a new website, a new tool, a new something was coming for gig workers to apply. Now, after asking and asking, where's this website? Where's this tool? We are now being told that if these gig workers applied on floridajobs.org before April 4th, they must reapply on floridajobs.org. Reapply. And that those that applied after April 5th should go to connect or call the number so they can get further instructions. What do we tell these people that spend hours on the phone and hours on the computer trying to get through to the system? Were they just wasting their time? What about those that applied via paper application? We still don't know if individuals can track their paper application and how long should they be waiting for a response from the DEO. Oh, and about the phone. Applicants are reporting that when they call the help centers that the FDLO set up to help with call wait times, on top of still being put on hold for hours, those that get through are told by the attendant that they were hired as a third party and did not have enough training to answer their questions. So yes, that's what people are getting on the other end of the line after waiting for hours. Listen, many of these workers in my community and all of my colleagues' communities don't have a credit card to go to the grocery store or to Sedanos to buy their groceries. And many don't even bank. We have people lining up at 3 a.m. for food distributions. That is hunger, plain and simple. The delay in handing out the CARES Act funds to our gig workers is frankly criminal. And now I'll pass it on to Senator Torres in Central Florida.
Thank you, Senator DEO, and thank all my colleagues who are on the call today, and Leader Gibson. I'm in the center of Florida, Osceola and Orange County. The Disney workers, the hospitality workers, the restaurants, the construction, the building trades who work at Disney and other sites. What are they facing? They're facing the hardships that every day trying to get their unemployment benefits. Yesterday on a call with the Florida Democratic Party, I requested that the party contact all the local DECs and make them and have them call the governor's office, the Senate president's office, the speaker's office to move on this unemployment issue. Tomorrow, I'm going to participate with a caravan from Disney workers and restaurant workers and other workers from Osceola County to Orange County to demonstrate the need. The message is loud and clear from the workers of here of Central Florida that they're not getting their due respect from the state. This governor has failed to react to them and make sure that they are taken care of. And let's face it, we need to concentrate on this issue first. Let's put the bread and butter in their hands so they can take care of their families. I thank you again for the opportunity to reach out to all of you. And I turn over to my colleague, Senator Pizzo.
Hi, everybody. Pleased to be on the call. I'll be brief. As we sort of broke up responsibilities here and discussion points, I'm actually in Tallahassee and tonight doing a presentation with the Director Satter, who I met with last week. He was installed. It's at the very least, it's pleasing to see the governor admit that the system is awful. It's a jalopy. It was an overspent exercise that never really intended to work, which is a good admission. And then installing Satter and setting aside Director Lawson, the Florida DEO dashboard is what we'll be focusing on tonight. Those numbers differentiating between unique submissions, total applications, and giving out real information and messaging how it relates to employer verifications, unique applications, fraud applications, the actual numbers to be calling, and just to make sure that what we've been sending out piecemeal and in part to our constituents is accurate and current information. I think because it's fluid and because it changes, some of us may actually have to go back and delete some of our posts because things have changed. And that's been a point of confusion for everybody on both sides. This is a Democratic caucus call, but I know that our colleague, one of our colleagues on the other side, his mother hasn't even been paid yet. So I think the frustration is pretty universal. But here's where we are. We have to catch up. I think that the person who they have now, had we had it at the beginning, we would have been caught up. We're not. We all share constituents that are desperate, that have food insecurity, housing insecurity. We have different things working at different times. So we have a track for reopening, which may not be in line necessarily with where we are, not being caught up with unemployment. And we need to get those things to run parallel with each other. I'm sure a lot of us have ideas of what to draft for next session. But again, I'm here up in Tallahassee, and they are well aware that we're up here to get things done and to reconcile this and get caught up. So I'll pass it on now to my colleague. Who am I introducing?
Thank you, Senator Pizzo, for that introduction. At this point, I want to also thank our leadership, Senator Gibson and Senator Montfort, for their putting this together and getting us to the point where we are. But let's really think about where we are at this time. You know, these are, as Senator Cruz was indicating, these are not unintended consequences. And the reason we know that they're not unintended consequences is because Senator Berman told you that all of our colleagues in 2011, when I was with her in the Florida House, we all voted against this system. Likewise, in 2011, every Democrat in the Senate voted against this system. So it's not unintended consequences. It's more like Senator Cruz was indicating, the system is working the way it was designed to work. And unfortunately, there's a lot of responsibility that goes along with that. You see, the current US Senator, and this is a lack of leadership. Our current US Senator, who was our governor at the time, actually implemented this system. We knew that it was faulty then. We voted against it. We advocated for it to be changed over and over after that point. Our current governor did nothing. And that's why we have these people suffering. Our lieutenant governor voted with us, against us in 2011 for this system. Leadership on both sides of the House and the Senate voted for this system and did nothing to fix it. So when I'm at the food distributions that Senator Brannan is talking about, I'm not sure that I want to give a pass to Satter or Lawson or anyone else who's in charge of this system. See, because those people who are in that food distribution line thanking us and pleading with us, they're suffering. When we're on the phone in our offices in our district, like we were this week, and ladies are crying, elderly ladies are crying to us. These are Floridians in need. And I actually wonder if the individuals who are in charge and making these decisions, whether they're actually seeing these people. Are they at that food distribution that Senator Brannan is actually standing at right at this time? This is a lack of leadership. From our US Senator right down to every leader that we have currently in the House and the Senate who voted for this system and who have done nothing to fix it. Leadership is needed at this time. Senator Rodriguez indicated we're here to ask for action. We are here to ask for action. What's happening is under Lawson and Satter, they're giving our citizens the runaround. And quite frankly, they're giving our legislators the runaround. We keep coming back and it's gonna happen here and here. And what do? They denied 200,000 people who've waited over and over for these benefits. They denied them. That's a lack of leadership. And we're here to ask that something be done and that it be done now. This is not the time to be denying people of these measly benefits that you're going to ultimately give them. And I would gladly turn over to my colleague, Senator Bull.
Thank you so much, Senator Thurston. And though we've outlined a tremendous amount of difficulties that Floridians have experienced, I also wanted, and I know that the caucus wanted to also take a moment to thank the individuals and organizations who've helped fill the gaps for Floridians over the past several weeks. Local nonprofits, businesses, donors, and volunteers have stepped up in a big way to make sure those who need basic necessities like food, Diapers, mental health services, and childcare are available to receive them. And I want to thank all of those who've answered the call when our communities are most in need, whether it's Monroe County all the way up to Senator Montford's district and everywhere in between. Despite challenges with the unemployment system, your efforts have ensured that no one is forgotten and no one is facing this pandemic alone. And so I just wanted to take, and I know that we wanted to take that opportunity to thank everyone who has done a tremendous amount.
I think we missed Senator Farmer. Are you there, Senator Farmer?
Thank you. Thank you, Senator Cruz. I am here. And, to the press out there and to everybody else who's joined us on this call, first, thank you for being here. This could be labeled, or some could say that this is just a partisan attack. It's not delivered in that manner. That is not our point here. Every senator on this call has been fielding hundreds of phone calls from constituents who are scared, who are crying, who don't know how they are going to feed their families. And they are simply looking for the unemployment benefits to which they are legally entitled. And we have all called on the governor, called on the Secretary Satter, called on Secretary Lawson to implement fixes to this system. It's been 2 months now and people cannot get their claims paid. And so this is a harsh reality that we are facing. And as you have heard from my colleagues, it's very hard not to conclude that this has all been done intentionally. And Senator Thurston called on the need for leadership. And in crises like this, leadership rises to the top. Well, I think what we're also seeing today is that 20 years of Republican leadership and the policies they have implemented are coming home to roost. That is just a fact. It sounds like a partisan statement, but it's a fact. When our colleagues, as has been detailed, have passed laws which set up hurdles and hoops and restrictions on getting these payments, it leads most to conclude that this is done intentionally to delay and deny payments. Now, with this system that constantly breaks and freezes and people are told they're ineligible when they're eligible, or people can't even get confirmation that their claim has been filed, it leads us to conclude that the Florida DEO and our executive branch are intentionally attempting to pay out as little money as possible. And then combined with the reopening of businesses, they can then just say, oh, okay, it's magic, we fixed it. Now we don't need to pay these benefits out. That's what people are starting to think. And that is a rational conclusion from this lack of action and lack of ability to fix a system that is desperately needed. The federal government is sending us $600 per worker. They're able to initially determine eligibility. Our DEO cannot determine eligibility on payments. That's what they're saying. And they delay and delay and delay getting people the resources they need to put food on their table. That's why Senator Brainin has to be at these food giveaways. And we are all engaged in food giveaways or raising awareness and getting funding to get resources to people. This false narrative about that it's being fixed and people are going to get their money, it's consistent with the false narrative that's being portrayed with regard to Floridians' health condition. We're being told that the numbers are lower than we're anticipated. And so that means that what we're doing is working. No, we're not testing nearly enough Floridians. And so these attitudes of denial, this look over there distraction technique, everything that they're doing is designed to take away from the fact that they don't want to pay these benefits. Our other United States Senator, Senator Rubio, just said today, this morning, I believe, that people are making too much money off of the unemployment system. People don't want to be on the unemployment system. People want to have their jobs back. People want to have a livelihood. They want to provide for their families. This isn't a scam. This isn't something done intentionally on the part of workers. But we are increasingly led to believe and conclude that it is being done intentionally by our state. And so, yes, we appear here today as a caucus calling for a fix to this, but this is not a partisan issue, Governor DeSantis. This is not a partisan issue, Secretaries Satter and Lawson. Floridians need your help. Get these systems fixed. Get them the resources they need so that they can feed their families. Thank you to my colleagues for their dogged pursuit of this issue. And we will continue to do this and to call on our government to fix this situation and to raise awareness, because it is simply unacceptable that this system is still not working in an adequate fashion. And I will turn it back. I believe we're going back to Leader Gibson at this point.
All of my colleagues for joining us. I know that there are some other of our senators who are doing things in their communities and maybe working their full-time job as well. And so they are certainly with us in spirit. And let me just say, I'm standing in front of our career source here in Jacksonville, and you can probably see all the applications that I guess they put out at night and take them back in. And we had a gentleman this morning on his bike that said he applied since March 29th. And so I asked him, I know I'm really apologetic. The system has failed you and millions of other Floridians. And he did a paper application. Those are processing a little slower. But he was very cordial about it. And so each of us has talked about real life situations, passing out food to seniors just day before yesterday. From 9 in the morning, we bagged till 6 o'clock, just delivering the goodie bags to those individuals. And so we have been on the front lines from the very, very beginning of this pandemic, copying applications, handing out those same applications. I went up to DEO's office just last week so I could see what was happening, how the process was working with stacks of paper applications still needing to be processed in a very, very, very slow manner. If you can imagine receiving tons of applications and having to open every envelope and stack every application to get it into a bin, that's what many of our Floridians are facing as we sit here today. Not only that, we have one of the shortest benefit periods in the country. We have the stingy money, as Senator Rodriguez pointed to, as well as a short amount of time to receive that. Now we want to reopen, or the governor wants to reopen a state when people have no money. And so what are we really doing? What are we really saying? Democrats know that weeks in advance, there were warnings of what was to come. That information was squandered in both Tallahassee and Washington. We already knew the unemployment system was not one we could depend on. That was ignored, not just by one Republican administration, but by two, because Governor DeSantis was told it just over a year ago, including the audits that came out that showed how bad and poorly the system operated. We will continue to raise our voices because the battle is not over, and we will be on the ground helping our constituents, all constituents in the state of Florida. My office and all of my colleagues' offices get calls not by party, but by need, by desperation. And we all have an obligation to help them. So it is well past time to act, and act better, to make sure all Floridians who have filled out their applications, be it online or paper, get their benefits now. And we still have one category of individuals who are not yet, they don't yet have an access to the system. Those who exhausted their unemployment benefits either right before the COVID or during the COVID pandemic. So their portal is not yet ready. So that is another group of Floridians who will be delayed in receiving their benefits. And so with that, we should certainly thank all of the media for being with us. And I again thank the strong caucus that I get to work with every day. And now we will take questions.
Well, leader, before we go to questions, may I comment?
Sure, Senator Rusan.
I just want to join Senator Book in expressing gratitude for the volunteer organizations, the nonprofits, even some of the state workers who've been on the front line trying to help people who are hungry and people who are in need. Individually and collectively, we represent the voice of the frustrated. This is not a Democrat versus Republican issue, like some of my colleagues have said. This is a people issue. It's a benefit issue. It's that the fact that we're here saying we want this solved, and we're only echoing what the phone calls say into our offices every day. Like Senator Pizzo, I traveled to Tallahassee this week. I spent Tuesday there, and I sat with Ken Lawson for just a very brief few minutes. And then I sat with Secretary Satter, and he shared with me the figures of what they're trying to do. They need to work more. He has not been home to his family in 3 weeks, he told me. But people still are not getting paid. And that's the most important thing today. Folks need food and they need their benefits, and they want them now. And I'm encouraged to see this. When I first walked up to DEO, if others of you have seen it, there's a table out front. At the table, there's signs that say, put your application here, and a mailbox. And I thought I was walking into the dark ages for paper applications. But once I got inside and saw these state workers who want to solve this as bad as we want it solved, working, I came away encouraged. Step by step, day by day, one application at a time, we will get through this like we will get through the pandemic. Thank you.
Okay, I think that it is my turn to ask. Hi, state senators. My name is Heather Lee. I'm a reporter at ABC Action News. I am just curious with the paper applications. I know one of you had talked about that. In terms of the paper applications, does anyone know how someone is able to check their status if they did submit a paper application? I have several elderly folks who say that was how they did it because they didn't know how to sort of navigate, the Connect system. It was hard enough. And, so how do they check their status? Is it even possible at this point? Is there a Connect, a site for them? I mean, not Connect, what's the word I'm looking for? A portal for them to go into so they can look at their status.
This is Senator Linda Stewart. I think there was a question about the paper applications that we have given out at the beginning. They are taking those applications. They are processing. It takes a little bit longer, but they are going into the system. So we hope that most of them have already been in there and they're working on them.
So the Connect system is your entree to check your status, because that is where you put in your ID, and that system has been breaking down a lot. So people are not able to necessarily access it to check their status. And so they call our offices. And we have been trying to help with that issue. And just let me add, these career source offices, we need to call on every career source in our communities to make sure that they can at least have connection to a phone. They can also help check status of people applications. So that needs to be worked. It's career source, for goodness sakes.
I can add that, unfortunately, we have a lot of people that in our communities that don't have a computer, don't have a smartphone, or are elderly and really don't have any way to check on the Connect system. So they have to either call us or they have to call and be on hold forever on that line. Like I've said, they've reported back that they tell them that they're going to answer their questions. So that's no help.
And Heather, this is Senator Cruz, and I have to tell you that I'm not even certain. I don't even know if the paper applications are the priority right now, and I'm really quite worried about that. You know, if we could just get a straight answer from one person every time you call, there's a different opinion, and no one will put anything in writing. So I don't know if maybe Senator Rousseau or Senator Pizzo has a better answer, but I will tell you this. I know that Disney is preparing 43,000 applicants in a format that they can drop into the system and get these folks paid. And I certainly hope that all these folks with the paper applications and all the other applications that have been waiting 5 and 6 weeks, I hope that everything, I hope it happens in order and the folks that have been waiting the longest get paid first.
We've also been told that there is a way to check on paper applications. You know, what we're told is you can go to floridajobs.org/RA for reemployment assistance application. Register, click on create claim, type in your social security number on the first page. And if your paper application has been entered, which we don't know if it has, you should receive a pop-up notification with the date. So those are the specifics, but we don't know if it's really happening or not. If, as everyone says, if paper applications are actually being taken care of. And it's quite sad that we had to resort to paper applications in the first place. But that is what we've been told is how to check on them at this point.
Well, it was explained to me by Secretary Satter on Tuesday that FedEx envelopes are being opened at the Department of Revenue, that there's a gym at FSU where they're opening boxes and prepping each paper application for scanning. They've received up to 15,000 paper applications per day, and that means 90,000 pages that have to be scanned into the system. When Satter first started, they were 2 days behind. I mean, now they're 2 days behind from being 8 days behind before. So I'm told that that's what's happening with the paper applications.
I also, here in Central Florida, that's why I'm with the Disney workers tomorrow. The issue is you have 43,000 and a lot of them have been rejected with their unemployment issues. And they're sick and tired of waiting with all the excuses that we hear from the state. I hear my colleagues talking about who they meet with, but guess what? They don't have answers to the problem. They just give us lip service, telling us how much they care for our people are suffering. And like everybody here is talking, my staff is getting constant calls on the issues of how they desperately are in need of money for taking care of their family, their kids. That's what's going on.
Yeah.
I want to mention too that, you know, at least they feel like they've accomplished something by getting at least an application when they haven't been able to do that online. So at least they feel like they're moving a little bit forward. Yes, it may take a little bit more time, but they are trying to catch up. Our biggest problem now is they are saying that if you have put in an application before April 5th, you got to reapply. Why would they have to reapply and go to the back of the line again? We're not talking about new people going in to the front of the line. We're talking about people that have been there 6 to 8 weeks and now they have to reapply and go to the back of the line again. That needs to change.
And these are all technological issues. This is all database type stuff. This is all a failure to invest in the right infrastructure and programs. Think of what we're talking about here. Just the verification of the filing of a claim can't even be accomplished. A couple of weeks ago, my staff was working on some people who were trying to get WIC benefits, women, infant, children benefits. Okay, people who can qualify for WIC, they can get those benefits, and then they don't need maybe as much of other benefits. And so anything we can do to help folks to get these benefits is going to be helpful. Well, WIC could not start a benefit payment until they were able to confirm that the woman or mother who's applying for the benefits is in fact unemployed. Well, guess what? They have to wait for DEO to tell them. If their systems could just communicate with one another, they could verify it themselves and then get those benefits started. And so simple things like interoperability and communication between our various agencies are just not happening. And it's just mind-boggling that these people can't, that are the people in charge of these agencies, the people performing these functions, can't get their act together. Very frustrating.
Thank you, senators. We have another reporter. Thank you. We have to move on. We have another reporter with who's John Kennedy would like to ask questions, please.
Yeah, I just wondered if anybody wanted to evaluate, not too long ago, the state issued as much as $109 million in additional contracts for 3 call centers to also work with DEO. Given that, I'm wondering, why are people still struggling to get through? That seems to be a recurring, how are those contracts working out?
Not only are people struggling to get through, but as Senator DeO said, when they get through, the people don't have answers for them. I get callers who are more frustrated after they talk to the people in the call centers because they don't give them an answer to their problem. So it's absurd that we're paying all this money and not getting any valid responses to it and getting people answers from that. So I am very frustrated about the call centers. They're causing almost more problems in my mind than a lot of issues.
John, I think that this is a total failure of leadership is how you answer that question. When you spend that type of money to get the type of results that we're getting, you're talking about a total failure of leadership. And we can go back and forth about how they're giving this numbers and this number of people in a gym, and here's the numbers that Satter said. The bottom line is, as Senator Vic Torres has indicated, our people are getting the runaround. We're now getting, legislators are getting the runaround, and people are not eating and they're not getting their benefits. That's a total failure of leadership.
In my opinion, what we should do is just pay the damn claim. If you set aside the money that you paid to try to fix Connect, if you set aside the money that you paid for 3 call centers where people basically get eight hours of training on a complex issue, just pay the damn claims. It's like, the governor could call the president and ask for a waiver. There are 4 Qs to get someone approved when they apply. One is to identify through Social Security. We could ask the president to waive that requirement. That's a federal requirement, but we could ask for it to be waived. Then after it goes through that, it goes through out of state. They check to make sure that you're not receiving out of state benefits. And then you go through a fraud check within the state. And then finally, your employer has to verify. And if the business is closed down and they're trying to call the business, then there's one more denial. It's a system set up for failure. Just pay the damn claims and research it afterward. Let someone know once they're back to work that they owe money. I mean, there's so much emphasis on fraud here that it's ridiculous. There's not fraud going on here. There are people who are starving and they need to get their damn money.
Yeah, I joined Senator Cruz in that the time has come, and I alluded to this before. The federal government is already sending us that $600 per week per employee. They're able to calculate that, okay? They're able to do it some preliminary analysis where they're sending us this money saying, okay, we're looking at this many people and calculating it this way. At this point, we should just start paying all these claims, and we can do clawbacks later if we find that people submitted any kind of fraudulent claims. But at this point, after 2 months and after a gross level of incompetence and inability to get this system to work, I think the time has come to start paying these claims, and we can do clawbacks later, but people need this money. And if they don't get this money, people are starting to get sick, and the situation is just going to get much, much worse.
I think it's a damn shame that 275 is a big issue on paying families when they have the money, the $4 billion that they could use. So give me a break. 275 is going to break the bank? No. The problem is that they're holding on and making people suffer. That's the bottom line, and that's the issue. 275, and that's if you qualify for 275. Remember, they play games with these people. That's the problem we have.
Thank you, everyone. And John, about the call centers, when I was there, I asked them if the individuals had a script so that they had the correct information. And apparently that is not the case. And the other issue that of scanning those applications into the system, everybody has to also understand that it doesn't automatically go into the computer system. All those scanned applications have to be hand input into the computer system by those folks working either at the call centers or the other places that those people are hired. And so it really is the slowest of processes. And we thank you all so much for joining us today. And please let all the people of the state of Florida know that we are hard at work answering questions, showing up at DEO, checking on what's going on, and continue on the battlefield, raising our voices to get our folks paid. Thank you very much.
And everybody make sure you stay safe out there. And even if you can't have a stylish mask like this one, make sure you cover up.
You just had to have the last word.